Hello, my name is Anya Sheftel, and I'm with the Washington State University team in collaboration with the Extension Collaborative on Immunization, Teaching, and Engagement, or EXCITE. This is the third of the three motivational interviewing modules that are available to you as part of the Getting to the Heart and the Mind of the Matter Toolkit. There are many other modules that are available for you to use to help you learn the toolkit. You can watch any of our other videos on motivational interviewing, science media literacy, or neuromarketing by clicking on the links to each of the modules in the description of this video. So I'd like to introduce myself again in more detail. My name is Anya Sheftel, and I'm a research assistant professor of special education at Washington State University. I'm also a licensed psychologist. I've been a motivational interviewing practitioner since 2006 and have become a member of the International Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers in 2008. So in my motivational interviewing career, I've worked in healthcare settings, community mental health settings, schools, vocational rehabilitation settings, and universities. So I'm really passionate about this topic, and I'm excited to talk to you about it here. Just a couple of other things to know about me. I'm originally from Russia, so if you hear an accent, that's where that's from. And sometimes I stutter, so you may hear that as well. Well, let's go ahead and get started with talking about motivational interviewing in group settings. In this module, we're going to talk about how MI spirit and processes, change talk, and the technical skills of motivational interviewing apply to group settings. And then we'll talk a little bit about other considerations for using MI in group settings. You can find more information about MI spirit, processes, change talk, and technical skills in the first module that is available as part of the series. Okay, so let's start with motivational interviewing spirit. The description of what it is available to you on the toolkit on page 20, so you can refer to that if you have that handy. Just a quick overview, right? MI spirits consists of partnership or collaboration, acceptance, compassion, and evocation. So how does that play out in group settings? MI spirit serves the role of helping us create a healthy and productive group dynamic, right? So when we model and we engage folks in a collaborative way, we demonstrate a partnership. That is something that other group members are going to also use in the conversations within the group. Acceptance, again, in order to have a healthy group dynamic and for folks to feel comfortable sharing what they want to share or the thoughts that they have, that acceptance is really important. So accepting folks where they're at, affirming them, and supporting their autonomy. That is going to create a sense of psychological safety that would allow folks to be honest and vulnerable about what they want to share. Compassion also serves the same purpose, right? So accepting that folks are doing as best they can with the tools that are given to them. And evocation, so we want to listen more and talk less. This is especially important in a group setting. In the group setting, everybody is going to look to you as a facilitator to do all the talking. Yet the power of the group comes when other group members contribute to the group discussion. So being mindful of evoking from the group members what they think, as opposed to feeling like you have to lecture, is a big part of MI group and also of motivational interviewing spirit. So the acronym that we use for MI spirit is PACE, right? So we want to pace our conversations with the group members. And it doesn't matter if it's just a one-off group or a series of workshops that you're offering. We always want to maintain that stance of pacing, partnership, acceptance, compassion, and evocation. Another quick note about MI spirit and groups is that oftentimes um, when I'm running a group, I start out with coming up with a list of group norms or expectations, just so everybody's on the same page about how we are going to interact with each other, and relying on motivational interviewing spirit to come up with a list of those norms could be helpful. So respect, um, giving space for others to talk, acceptance, no judgment. Those are always good norms to think about as you're starting out a group. All right. So then the processes of motivational interviewing and the description of the processes is available in your toolkit on page 22. Right. So they're kind of like a blueprint of what an MI conversation could look like. And obviously it applies to individual conversations, but also to group conversations as well. So in a group, we always want to start with engaging our group members. And, if we don't have that engagement, the conversation just isn't going to be as productive. And engagement in the group setting really serves for the group members to get to know each other, but then also to create, again, that sense of psychological safety so they can share openly. So we engage folks by asking them to share something about themselves, right? It could be something that they're proud of. It could be a strength that they have. It could be their values or things that are important to them. Right? It's coming up with a structure that shows that you, as a group facilitator, are delighted to be in the presence of these folks, and that you want to get to know them, and you want them to get to know each other a little bit better. Then the focusing part of the MI processes is interesting in a group setting, because sometimes a group could be open-ended, so we don't really have a focus. So in the past, I have facilitated interpersonal process groups, right? So there really isn't a concrete focus of each group meeting. The focus is decided as folks are sharing and talking about what would be important for them to get out of the group on that day. Oftentimes, though, when I've worked in community mental health and healthcare settings, there is a focus of the group, right? So we're meeting to talk about smoking cessation, or we're meeting to talk about substance abuse, right? So oftentimes in a group, you already have a predetermined focus, and just making sure that folks are aware of what that focus is, which they would be if they have signed up for a smoking cessation group. Of course, they would know that they're going to be talking about smoking cessation, but explaining to the folks what that means, right? So when I used to facilitate smoking cessation groups, having conversations like, we're here to talk about smoking cessation, and for some folks that may mean how to cut back. For some folks, it may mean how to quit smoking. And for some folks, it may mean just starting to think about what they might want to change about their smoking. And then getting a sense from the group where everybody is at in that process of change. So then you can decide, right? If everybody in the group is only considering smoking, how you're going to run that group is going to be different than if the majority of the folks in the group have already quit, right? So that's the focusing for the group, but also for you. And then the evoking piece. This is where I think the group process shines, is that when we're talking about evoking, we're talking about evoking and reinforcing statements about change or change talk. Well, in the group setting, you have multiple people who are sharing statements about change. And so you have a lot of information to work with and to amplify the momentum for change within the group setting. And then the planning process. So of course, this is not something that folks have to do, but if folks are ready to come up with formal or informal plans, they're more than welcome to do that. Right. So let's talk about that idea of evoking a change talk, right? As I've mentioned, that the group setting is a fabulous opportunity for folks to share change talk and to really build that momentum toward change. Information at Change Talk is available on page 23 of your toolkit. And just a brief overview of what change talk is. So there's statements about desire, ability, reasons, need, commitment, activation, or consideration of change, and taking steps toward change. So the idea is that the more statements like that we hear from folks, the more likely it is that they will follow through with the change that they are hoping to achieve. In a group setting, again, you are going to hear multiple statements about change from multiple people, and then it becomes your job to reflect, affirm, and guide that conversation toward change. So in a group setting, you actually have to listen in a bit of a different way because you're listening to more voices than just one. And you want to respond to folks as a group and not always as an individual. So let's talk about what that could look like. So we're talking about MI technical skills, which could be found on page 25 to 33 of the toolkit. So the very first one is avoiding the writing reflex. We can also think about it as a big part of the relational piece of motivational interviewing. So the writing reflex is when we want to provide information or advice, and oftentimes that information or advice is not asked for. We just feel compelled to provide it. What happens in that instance is that if a person is not interested in hearing information or advice that we are sharing with them, they are going to not want to engage with us anymore, right? So that interpersonal discord is going to increase in our conversation. And once interpersonal discord increases, nothing productive can really be done in a conversation. In a group setting, that is amplified, right? So if I'm engaging in the writing reflex with a group member and other group members are observing me do that, I'm also going to lose their engagement because I'm modeling, not listening, I'm modeling being confrontational, right? So we really want to avoid that. So we want to come alongside, listen, understand what the people are saying instead of feeling compelled to provide information or advice. That being said, sometimes in a group setting, might have a group member who is sharing misinformation with others. And we do feel compelled to correct that group member, right, and to provide accurate information. And that is where the strategy of ask, offer, ask could really come in handy. So that strategy is described in the second module of the motivational interviewing modules and is also found in your toolkit. So you're more than welcome to look at that and see how you could use that in a group setting. Reflections. Reflections, again, are a very powerful tool of motivational interviewing. They demonstrate curiosity, they demonstrate understanding, empathy, right? And they move the conversation forward. And this is with coming back to this idea of multiple statements about change. A reflection could be a great tool to summarize all of those statements in one and to present that back to the group members to build that momentum toward change. So for example, you might have a group member who says, again, if we're going to use the example of a smoking cessation group, you might have a group member who might say, you know, I know that smoking is not great for me, but I've been smoking for 20 years and I just don't know how I'm going to quit. You might have another group member who says, well, you know, I quit and it was kind of hard, but I was able to do it and I feel so much better. And then you might have a third group member who says, well, you know, how I'm going about it is that I just cut back because like I'm not able to quit all the way, but I cut back because I think that's better than smoking as much as I used to smoke, right? And so there you are, you have those three statements and you want to respond to them. One reflection of that, a reflection of meaning could be, you all really care about your health and you want to be as healthy as you can, and you all are going about it in a way that makes sense to you, right? So that's a statement. I just kind of made that up. I'm sure you could come up with your own reflections for that example. But then we move to the open-ended questions, right? So the question that would evoke more than just yes or no answer. And in this example, you could follow up with an open-ended question of, Tell me more about what has worked on your path to quitting or cutting back and getting folks talking about the ability and how they were able to change. That's going to reinforce their own reasons for change, but as the other group members are hearing them talk about it, that's going to influence them as well. So that's the power of the group. And affirmations, right? We know that affirmations are effective way of engaging, of creating psychological safety, and of supporting change talk. Right. So let's talk about kind of some other considerations for how to run NMI group. So having a plan, right? So having that focus, having an agenda, having an idea of how you're going to structure the group would be important. As some of the groups that I've run would have like a manual, right? Like, so this is the session you're doing, and these are the things you have to cover. The plan is right there. I have it. With some of the other groups, I had to come up with my own plan, but having a plan is important. And of course, always maintaining the flexibility about that plan to meet the folks where they're at in the group. At the start of the group, as folks are getting to know each other, we do want to focus on the positive to stay in the moment. Oftentimes, folks really want to talk about all the things that happened to them in the past or all the things that they're worried about in the future, and kind of just bringing it back and saying, like, but where are you at right now? Who are you right now, right? What are your strengths? What are your values? Who are you? And then exploring perspectives and thoughts on whatever the focus of the conversation is. Then we're going to build up with looking toward the future. And this is the opportunity to really amp up that reflection of an exploration of change talk. Want to end the group on a positive note, right? So we want folks to walk away from the group experience feeling like they had a good time, right? And sometimes there are conflicts within the group. So ending the group on a positive note is important. What I often do is I just have folks share what they appreciated about each other in that group. So not about me or not about the content of the group, but what did they appreciate about each other in the group? And that is going to build that sense of cohesion. And of course, throughout, we want to support self-efficacy and work toward reducing interpersonal discord. So what did we talk about just now? A quick review. Talked about in my spirit and processes, change talk and technical skills and how they relate to group settings. And we talked about other considerations for doing MI in a group setting. I'd like to thank you for watching and learning with us here today. Again, would like to thank the Excite Foundation through its interagency agreement with the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for funding this project. And we hope this toolkit is helpful to you and to your communities.